Hello, Voices from the Bench community. Pat Kuhn from Ivoclar here. Innovation and education are inseparable partners in our profession, where continuous change offers you the opportunity to raise the bar of dental care and elevate what is clinically and technically possible. So we at Ivoclar have created Ivoclar Academy, where we support you through cutting-edge educational programs and resources. We understand that you have busy schedules and individual preferences for learning. To help leverage your time and maximize your learning experience, the Academy has educational opportunities that are easily accessible and fit any learning style. Whether you are looking for an in-person program or for virtual education, Ivoclar Academy offers multi-channel opportunities that allow you to learn at home, in the classroom, in the office, or on the go. In addition, we offer CE-accredited learning opportunities. You can receive a certificate of attendance for each CE-eligible program or training course completed from the Ivoclar Academy. Simply log on to ivoclar.com and click on the Academy link located at the top of the page to get started. Happy learning.
Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Greetings and welcome to episode 323 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
My name is Barbara.
What's happening, Barb?
Still is.
Haven't talked to you at all this week. What's going on?
I think you and I were both busy as hell this week.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Ridiculous.
What'd you say? You did 60 units yesterday?
Yes.
That's
It was a
effing
lot,
nuts.
and I was a little stressed. But
And we're not talking 60 monolithic, no stain posteriors, are we?
no. But I have something else to talk about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm an Eminem fan, and he released Houdini yesterday, and everybody needs to freaking check it out because it is awesome.
Isn't
I know.
Eminem like 60 now?
Yeah, no, he's 51, and it's just
Oh.
freaking amazing. I think I listened to it at least 20 times yesterday.
No kidding.
For all you fans out there and you non-fans, yeah, you got to check it out. And we should be playing it right now because it's good.
We don't have that kind of money, Barb.
I know you'll check it out. As soon as we finish this podcast, you're going to jump on there and check it out because you won't regret it.
It will be the first time I actively go out and listen to Eminem if I do that.
Come on. You're cooler than that.
I'm trying to think. Out of all the years, let's see, I've heard you mention Taylor Swift a bunch. And then there's that guy. What's that guy's name you used to talk about all the time?
Kid Rock.
Kid Rock, yes.
I know. Well, he's in the same realm. Eminem's from Detroit. So, I stick to my roots. But check it out, all y'all.
Yeah, but we're talking about rock, pop, and
I'm
rap.
all over the place.
Yeah, you are.
For sure.
Did you listen to Eminem when you did the 60 units?
No.
Oh.
To Taylor Swift. Come on.
Oh, is that your go-to music when you?
Yep.
Nice.
I really not really listen to music. I really get focused and just get into my work, and
Really?
I don't really listen to music. I know people listen to podcasts and music, but I'm pretty much just, unless I need to be driven, I'll throw some on, but no.
There you go.
Nope.
Yeah, but I'm the guy that nerdy podcast even when I'm running, even when I'm working.
God, I don't
driving.
know how you do that when you run, but God bless you.
Yeah, I guess.
So you need to issue an apology.
I do. So everybody knows I can hardly pronounce people's names. I get it. I apologize, but it's just a thing. I don't know where I didn't get it from, but I can't do it. But now that I have the laptops back and I'm able to listen to the recordings that we did at ExoCAD Insights, I got to the one where we recorded with the gentleman that helped me get the laptops back.
Aha.
This wonderful human I've been calling Jamie. And the dogs agree that is wrong.
Yeah, they do.
But I've learned since listening to his recording that I've been saying it wrong. And he deserves not only a million thank yous, but he deserves me to say his name right.
I would agree on that.
Yep, I'm going to do it again. A big thank you to Hyman.
Nice.
I wanted to correct that, get that out of the way, because he deserves more than some crazy American calling him Jamie.
Yeah. And thank you again, Jaime.
Oh, for sure. Every time I open this laptop, I thank him.
Heck yeah.
So this is the week that we head off to the FDLA Southern State Symposium and Expo.
Yes, sir.
I'm super excited, really. Spain was great, but it's nice to get back to a little local show where it's not like weeks of travel and stress. I'm just really looking forward to it. And the good people at Jensen Dental is allowing us to set up at their booth and record all weekend.
Right on.
So if anyone's going to be there, please stop by and say hi, and we are happy to have you on the podcast. Are you ready for your on stage?
Yeah, it's super casual. It's more of a walking through the crowd and doing that kind of thing rather than being up on stage and doing that.
I'm proud of you, because usually before these events, the word casual is not in your vocabulary.
Well, I take everything seriously, but it's more of a casual panel, meaning we'll be out in the audience going back and forth with the audience rather than us answering questions as a panel on stage. So it's a different vibe, and it was really actually fun. They did it last year and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, so I'm excited.
So you do get good audience participation.
It's more about audience. We have pre-questions, and then we want the audience to talk,
I will come up with some good questions.
Okay. You do that.
They will somehow be unrelated to the topic at hand.
All right.
So this week we have an amazing conversation with a guy named Thomas Brainski. I'm going to be honest. When Thomas reached out to us, his whole idea, I thought, was talking about just some sort of tax credit that labs were missing out on.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, not the most interesting topic, but Barb and I, we like to cover all aspects of our industry, so I'm like, sure, let's have a conversation. Fortunately, the conversation with Thomas turned out to be so much more and so much better. Thomas talks about opening a lab 12 years ago without knowing the difference between a denture or a crown. After a lot of missteps and failures, all that he shares with us so we can learn from them, Thomas eventually found the thing that his lab could do differently that set him apart from the others. After that, it was a clever marketing idea and a lot of hard work that he was able to turn his lab around, and he shares so many valuable lessons he's learned along the way. So join us as we chat with Thomas Brainski. Whether you're looking to elevate your craftsmanship or looking to cut back on cost, look no further.
Vita MFT teeth are the ultimate solution for creating lifelike and stunning smiles.
Crafted with precision and backed by cutting-edge technology, Vita MFT teeth offer unparalleled aesthetics and durability.
And since Vita believes in the power of experiencing excellence firsthand, for a limited time only, they are offering you the chance to get a complimentary case sample.
That's right, a full case absolutely free. Just visit vitanorthamerica.com/free MFT.
Don't wait any longer to start providing your customers a premium tooth at an economy price. Redeem your free case sample, and if you're ready to buy, Vita will even give you an extra 10% off discount by shopping online on their newly launched online store.
Join the Vita family today, and we appreciate your support of the podcast. Voices from the Bench. The interview. Barb and I are super excited today to welcome a guest to the podcast. You know, Thomas, not many people reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think that's how we connected.
Yes.
Kind of a cool story you have. So let's get into it. How are you, sir?
You know, I am so pleased to be on the program. I happen to be a pretty big fan. And please take this as a compliment because it is totally intended to be a compliment. You have an unusually warped sense of humor based on your social media postings, and I share such a warped sense of humor and enjoy it. So I was looking forward to being on your show with you.
Well, we'll try to keep it super warped just for you.
Excellent.
Yeah. Elvis is definitely warped. And if you're like Elvis, you belong on this podcast. So.
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll be a regular. Who knows?
So, Thomas, I believe you reached out to us and you said you're a lab owner, which got you on the podcast. You have a lot to do with taxes, which, I'm kind of,
hate taxes.
Love hate.
Does anyone like them? I mean, I don't like
And then you mentioned you're a podcaster, which I'm like, well, this is great. Yep. Let's just bring it all together. So tell us, Tom, how'd you get into dental?
So, first of all, to be very clear, full disclosure, I was a lab owner right up until a few weeks ago.
You got out?
It's funny. My clients, some of my dentist clients have reached out to me and they've all basically said the same thing, which is, congratulations, good for you. I think you just gave yourself an extra 5 years to, onto your life.
Oh,
I think I agree with that,
I completely agree with that.
My life has been extended, yes. So, I did. I'm insane, and I did the one thing that I don't think anyone should ever do, which is to know nothing whatsoever about dental and buy yourself a dental lab because you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person. You go, hey, it's dental. I'm going to make a lot of money. Wow. Could I have been more wrong? But so about 12 years ago, my wife and I were talking, and initially I was looking at buying a trucking company that hauled crap, which would have been more apropos.
Hauled crap?
Well, yeah. I mean, you figure if you're going to try and buy a business, you want to do something that's going to be around for a while, and everybody poops. So, doing like one of those septic service type of things, there's always business, right? And these trucks were capable of even hauling like Marcellus shale waste, like the brine from fracking.
Wow.
And I was like, man, this is kind of a good idea, but a few things stood in my way. The guy's business, his books were cooked. I mean, he showed no profit. The guy was like a multimillionaire, but showed no profit. Yeah. And so I couldn't get a loan for it. I thought, wait a minute, look at this. There's a dental laboratory for sale. I love this idea. It's dental. It's money. And my wife was like, no, not a good idea. Let's not do this.
You have no idea what a dental lab is.
No. I bought a dental lab and had no idea. I kid you not. When I first bought the lab, it was a very small lab in Hanover, Pennsylvania. And I could not have told you the difference between a denture and a partial. I could not tell you the difference between a PFM and a zirconia crown. I had no idea. And so I was literally attempting to go out and grow the business by talking to dentists going, hey, check out our beautiful crowns. And I'm holding like a denture.
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way that you couldn't really stain and glaze denture teeth. Because I'm like, well,
Elvis could if he tried.
Well, come on now.
You could technically nowadays, especially, you could maybe characterize them and do a little light cure bacon to them and make them look nice and pretty. But I mean, at the time, I bought a lab that had no capability to do that anyway, and I didn't know anything, and it was one of the dumbest things I've ever done. But I was able to parlay it into something much, much better.
How big was the lab?
I started out initially buying, it was a 2-person lab, and it was kind of like 2.5, sort of. I was able to keep the old owner on, and he was doing crown and bridge. It was a full service lab, but we did about 10 crowns a month, maybe 12.
That's it.
That was really not good. And of course, I get into it thinking, I'm rocking and rolling. I'm a genius. And it turns out that wasn't true. So about a year later, or I guess 6 months into it, I've come to understand there's another lab for sale. I mean, if you're going to do something dumb, you might as well
do it twice.
Let's really go for it. And again, my wife is going, no, this is not a good idea. If you thought the first one was a bad idea, why would you think this is a good idea? Well, because I'm an idiot.
I was going to say, well, why would you?
Well,
I know you say you're an idiot, but why would you?
Because the other one was a crown and bridge lab that did a hell of a lot of crown and bridge. And I knew that we had some strength in the removal department, obviously, because that's what kept us afloat. But we did not have a good enough crown and bridge. The crown and bridge for the original lab that I bought, the guy basically let it go. He wanted to do a lot of fishing and hunting and all this other stuff. It almost basically killed off that entire department. And I knew that if I can get crown and bridge going, I could grow. And, about 45 minutes away was another lab, and this guy was looking to sell. And I mean, honestly, I probably overpaid for it a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I immediately, now I knew what a crown was, by the way, because now I'm this far down the line. So I immediately threw in an Amann Gerbach full-blown suite of CAD-CAM, and I'm thinking, hey,
nice.
I'm going to do this. I am all in on dental. We are just going to hit it. We're going to hit it hard. We're going to grow.
And the lab didn't have any CAD CAM before?
They had nothing. I mean, they were about as archaic as all could be. And again, lessons learned. Here I go. I'm going to buy a business. I've already got contracts in place for the equipment. I know this is going to happen. And in my mind, I'm thinking there's technicians there. These technicians are going to adopt technology because they are technicians and technology, and they share a word. And so therefore it's going to be great. And I bought it, and within no time at all, we had the install. The guys were great. Bob, if you're listening, I still love you. Thank you. Bob Farina. And I was actually the first technician, unfortunately, because no one knew how to use a mouse.
Well, yeah, that kind of sounds a little bit familiar. Like you got one of those labs that had nothing, and so you were the leader.
So many surprises on entry into this, because not only did I buy a lab that was a Crown and Bridge lab, but I also came to find out I didn't have an anterior ceramist. Like they were actually outsourcing all their anterior work. And I'm thinking like, well, you do it. You're a ceramist. I'm paying you. And that also didn't work out very well.
What did all these technicians think about you coming in, Mr. I have no idea what a crown is, making changes?
I'm sure they loved it.
I'm sure.
It's a funny thing. I'm going to tell your audience this because this is actually a very important lesson. All right. When you are selling your laboratory to someone, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is that you cannot say a word to your staff that this is happening.
Oh, my God.
The first day that I walk into my brand new laboratory that I am now the new owner of, I am introduced as, oh, hey, everybody. By the way, this is Tom, and this is Sherry, his wife. And, well, they're the new owners.
Oh.
I mean, you want to talk about daggers coming out of people's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
That happened to me at our lab, and it was like thrown on everybody. And it's a really shocking experience and not a happy one, I have to admit.
It's awful. I did not do that when I sold my lab. And I actually I'm gonna do a little shout out here to a previous guest of yours because I have nothing but mad respect for him. He purchased my laboratory, and I cannot say just how impressed I was and how blessed I was to have him as a buyer. And this is Jay Collins. Jay.
Oh, such a good guy.
He is probably the greatest buyer I could have ever dreamed of. And I think everything went smoothly because I let my staff know well in advance that I was buying my lab. Yeah. And I communicated everything. I was very clear, very transparent. And for me, I was not going to sell to anybody that was going to screw any of my employees. My employees were everything to me, and I had to make sure that they were completely and totally taken care of. And I mean, Jay came in, and initially he was like, well, I've never really dealt with anyone who was this transparent before. And I'm like, hey, this is me. But it worked out really well. And everyone got to talk to the new owner before there was ever a transition. They got to ask lots of questions. They were completely reassured. They now have a better deal than I ever could have given them. And so that to me is probably the best possible way of doing it. And some people have told me I'm absolutely insane for even letting a buyer talk to my people. And frankly, it is high risk. But at the same time, I really felt that was the best way to do it. And it worked out very well. So thank you, Jay. And I know you're
before everyone goes and searches, actually, Jay's never been on the podcast.
I thought he has.
We talked to him at a meeting. Okay. We've talked to him
so many times. We've been meaning to have an episode. I know Jay. I've been to the lab. It's not your lab, but his lab.
I mean, the dental lab?
Great stuff. He's a good dude.
He is absolutely one of the best guys in this field.
Yeah.
He is a stand-up guy. He's a no BS guy. He's not a backstabbing guy. And I mean, guys, you've been in this field long enough. There's a lot of crap.
I know a lot of them.
I mean, there's a lot of dishonesty, and he is not that guy.
He's a good dude. Yep.
Well, cool. Well, that's excellent. But go back your 12 years, and you didn't have an anterior ceramist. You just bought your equipment. How the hell did you survive?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I started out doing the CAD CAM, so I was doing anteriors and posteriors.
So you taught yourself, self-taught?
As a CAD CAM guy, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And my technicians were very upset at me at first because they were telling me that I was designing uppers on lowers and lowers on uppers. And
you might have been.
And of course, they'd spend literally, 4 months grinding contacts off of one crown just to get something.
Yeah.
it was a dumpster fire. I mean, I was doing bridges because I had no choice. I ended up learning, my technicians kind of taught me, enough to be dangerous, to at least prevent them from spending all day grinding content.
Yeah.
And then I started outsourcing some because I realized that I had to. And I mean, I was never satisfied, not because I knew what I was looking at, but I could hear the from the staff. Anything I was outsourcing to didn't go very well. And we ended up parting ways with the original owner. He didn't align with my growth goals, which also made things difficult because trying to find a ceramist in York, Pennsylvania is not easy to do.
Yeah.
I had strong competitors in the area. And right about a year or two after I took over, we almost lost the company. It was just a massive series of missteps and failures. But that's how I learned. And I'm one of those guys who can just constantly get back up. You can knock me down. You could punch me. You could beat me. And I'm just so
gonna keep going.
I am just gonna get back up. I do not care. I will take the beating and get back up and say, let's go again and figure out another way. And so I had a very interesting day. It was the summer. And as you guys know, labs in the summer are mostly dead anyway.
Slow. Yeah.
It's going to happen. And so there was one day where I think we got it was a week actually. Each day we got about 2 to 3 cases in a day. And that's a problem when you have a staff of, I think I had 6 at the time.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
For sure.
I mean,
not enough at all.
And, I had this very humbling moment. I'm a fairly spiritual guy, and I basically got down on my knees and I look out the window and I'm praying to God and I'm like, okay, I got nothing left, please help. And I had this idea at that point, and I called a marketing company, a local marketing firm, and I left this message. And the message was basically along the lines of this. It was like, hi, my name is Tom. I'm with Dental Lab, and I've got about a month or 2 left before I've got to close my doors, and I'm looking for help. And 20 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's the owner of the marketing firm who goes, I've got to talk to the person that would leave me that voicemail. I've never had a voicemail.
Yeah.
And she goes, I would like to come over and meet with you. And I said, great. I've got nothing going on anyway. Come on.
It's funny.
Stick around. I'm not busy.
I got my 1 crown in the mill. It'll be done in a few minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
If that, right? So she came over and she's like, well, okay, let's talk. And I gave her the story and she's like, wow, this is really bad. And she goes, what are you doing for marketing? I showed her all the terrible things I was doing. And she's like, it's not good. I'm like, well, I know that, obviously. And she's like, well, what makes you different? Boy, is that a tough question. I mean, every business owner ends up typically being asked this question at some point, usually, what makes you different? And I'm like, well, nothing. And she's like, well, there's got to be something. Mm-hmm. If nothing you do is different, then why would people work with you? That's a tough one right there.
It is.
And it was a tough pill to swallow. And so she helped me think it through. God bless her. And she goes, well, what can you do that would be different? And I said, well, I can actually make crowns really fast. I have all the equipment to do it. Nothing would stop me from doing it. And she's like, well, why don't you? And I'm like, I can. And so that's what we decided was going to make me different. So we then changed the way in which we had our turnaround times, because why have 7 or 9 days when you could have 5? Everyone goes, 7 days. But why? What is the reason behind that exactly? How do you choose your turnaround days? And that was a great question to ask, because I'm like, geez, I don't know. It's always been like that, which, by the way, anytime anyone in my business has ever said, we do this because we've always done it, I want to slap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, somebody decided in 1840 that 6 to 7 days was good, and we've all just kind of went with it.
Great.
As business owners, we are so guilty of this. We do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Hello, definition.
Of course.
And we never stop and ask ourselves, well, why are we doing this? And so I became really good at asking, why are we doing this? Which, by the way, drives any staff crazy because I make a lot of changes. But then, she's like, well, tell me about yourself. And I said, well, I got these infant twins. What do you mean you have infant twins? They're just newborn twins. They were very, very young. And she goes, oh, I'm going to use that. And I'm like, for what? What in the world are you going to do? And I have to say, this was one of the most brilliant ideas ever, and it put me on the map. And so she goes, we are going to use this. And she goes, what do your twins have in common with all the dentist patients? And I'm like, all right, I don't know.
They scream.
They all need teeth.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
And so we had these marketing materials printed up with pictures of me holding both of my kids in my arms, because who's going to receive these postcards? Women.
Yep.
So women like babies, they hold these postcards and they're not going to throw them out as fast as they'll throw out anybody else's. And there's a catchy line in there. What do my infant twins, have in common with your business or whatever? They all need teeth. Oh my gosh. There were so many times I would actually be out peddling, my business, trying to draw business. And I'd walk into an office after my mail had gone out and people go, oh my God, I know you. I've met you before. No, you haven't. You've just seen my junk mail. And I would, I've got a decent enough personality where, well, actually, you probably haven't, but you've probably seen me and my kids. Oh, yeah, that's what, oh my God. Well, you should send us a case. We will.
Did you ever bring the babies into the office?
Heck no. Are you kidding me? How would that be?
Why not? Sounds like fun.
Oh, the infant twins? It was a pain.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't crazy enough, right?
I got one of them, maybe two of them, forget about it. They were like, poop machines constantly. But the neat thing was I was back on the map. I was growing again. And we grew and grew fast. And now started to see tremendous levels of growth because dentists were now seeing crowns coming back, not in 5 days, but I was getting these things back in 3 and 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I bet they loved it. They could turn around their chair time and get paid all in a week.
Which helped my marketing further because now my sales, and I'm calling them saying, well, why wouldn't you want to at least give a lab a shot that's going to put crowns back there in 3 to 4 days without charging you any extra? Yeah. I said, listen, if you need it, if it must be back to you in 3 days, I can do that. I will charge extra for that because that's a requirement. But I'm going to have them back to you in 5 anyway. And quite frankly, some of these are going to come back sooner. And if you've got holes in your schedule, you're going to fill them. Would that be helpful to your job, Sally? And Sally would be like, of course. Well, great. Let me help you. And things changed dramatically. So now I went from almost losing the business to just, I'm now growing. And I'm not growing by a little bit. I'm now seeing 30% growth year over year.
How are you able to keep that turnaround time with that kind of growth, though? Like, how did you have to think out of the box to get all that done?
So over about a 2-year period, I expanded the staff. I hired people to do CAD CAM because I couldn't keep up with it. I ended up getting a second mill.
There you go. Okay.
I was multiple shifts at this point because I was also realizing, like, how can I make sure I use a zirconia that is a great quality that they like? So I really got that dialed in. How can I make sure that we can manufacture effectively? So I worked very diligently to get my contacts and occlusion dialed in, so much so that things would not spend any time going through the lab. It could be, get the case in, spit the case out, get the case in, spit the case out. And it goes into the doctor's hands. They put it in the mouth and they go, oh my gosh, this was like really quick. And so we really got that dialed in. And that helped build the business. So then you've got the marketing that was working. You had the ability to sell because your messaging is right. And then you had the product that was backing it up. And it got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to center during the day and at night. And if I center during the day and at night, that means that I always have crowns that are not sitting waiting to be touched. Things can be touched right away. And so I went for a more lean manufacturing approach. I had to buy another building. So I had to move everything to a larger facility because I outgrew what we had. Then my second milling machine, I was very, very methodical as to what I chose. And I went with the IMSI Core 350 with the loader because now that thing can run all night and I can run many different materials through that thing. And things could run and I don't have to have as many technicians because my machine is doing the work. Because I didn't want to be in a position like I was in where I've got to have somebody there so late at night because they got to swap pucks and keep the one spindle spinning. And even if I had 2 spindles, if I couldn't change his own puck, then I got to have a human there. So I took that into account. So now I was thinking a lot more like an intelligent, business person.
I was going to say, yes, you are.
Learned a lot of valuable lessons. And then I was like, oh, we're going to try the pre-shaded zirconia. And I was like, well, you know what? The pre-shaded zirconia, that's great. But now we have shade issues because it's not spot on. I tried several different zirconias. I was one of these guys who always was trying something new and tuning and testing to get something right. And to get it really right. And I went, you know what? I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go back to dipping because our dips, I was using the B&D product, fantastic product.
Yeah.
Dead on all the time. The only time you'd have a problem is if the dip got weak. And if the dip got weak, replace the dip. but now you're good to go. And
if the dip gets weak, replace the dip.
Amen. But the other benefit to that was that my inventory could be significantly lower.
Yeah.
I only need to buy white in different sizes and not have every shade of every size and all these different things to be able to get these things done. And so, yes, I would spend a little bit more on the labor, but because the inventory stayed lower and because I could move things in a very consistent manner, I could move a lot more through in a day.
Heck yeah.
And then I went into printing and I bought a Sprint Ray first, and that thing turned out to be not amazing. And after I learned that was not amazing and I wanted a much greater capability, Carbon came in the door and I was loving my.
Oh, wow.
As a matter of fact, if you guys had a video, you could see I'm still proudly wearing my Carbon shirt. I was in Singapore last week and I was walking around Singapore taking pictures of myself with the Carbon. Go Carbon.
Carbon?
Go Carbon. Love Carbon.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, there was so much I did. So then another very important lesson I'm going to share with your audience here, because if they're not doing this, they are literally screwing themselves. And I'm going to drop so much wisdom on.
I love it.
From just a ton of mistakes that I've made and learned from, that anyone who's within the sound of my voice can take this and monetize it very easily. So I had, at this point, I hired a couple of sales reps. And I hired reps who were really nice guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're nice doesn't mean they could sell. Now, so my sales reps were basically getting about a client or two a month. And I'm thinking, this is great. We're growing. And we were actually growing. But a lot of it was just organic growth from providing amazing service.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I mean, I was a bad I don't want to brag. I will.
Brag away.
And what was happening, though, is even though we were growing, I started melting my staff down. And I had a massive staff turnover at one point. I had expensive technicians. I had people move to work in my facility, and I paid them, and it didn't matter. And it was also during COVID. But the problem that I had was I had so much work, and I had a big problem. I did not set myself up for scalability. I did not have a system in place for training. I could not very quickly and easily take people off the street and turn them into technicians.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about a gigantic problem. I melted my people down. We imploded. Now, let me back up for a second, because I did solve one problem before that, which was my salespeople just sucked. So one day I pick up the phone because I see an ad from a guy who says he's a consultant. He's been on your show. And I called this guy up and I'm like, hey, you say that you can increase my sales. You say that you can manage my sales team. I'm interested. Let's talk. His name was David Lesh.
I
was going to say.
David. That's crazy.
In the first conversation, made me feel like the biggest asshole on the face of the earth. And I appreciated every bit of it, because my ego is not important. Because what I was doing wasn't right. And so it's David. He's got an ego. His ego is freaking huge. I love him.
Yeah.
It's massive ego. But he wasn't wrong. And he said to me, he goes, listen, you bring me on. He goes, I will manage your sales guy. And you got to give me permission to fire him if he sucks, because I've got a way of handling salespeople. And my way works. And I don't want to keep doing your way if it doesn't work. And I said, you know what? That's fair enough. Within a week, my sales guy was gone. I had no sales guy. But David came in and he hired people this girl had never even sold so much as a candy bar. And she's out there within no time flat doing 5 to 10 new doctors a month.
Wow. That's pretty spectacular.
Because David is no BS. He is the real deal. He's you take the ego and you run with it, because that's the kind of guy that's going to make you money.
Yep. Agreed.
And I'm literally a walking testimonial to that. And so that kind of growth is what literally imploded my laboratory. And I lost all kinds of quality and experience and everything. We melted down.
You say melted down. What does that mean? You lost your people, or you lost your clients, or both?
I lost people, which led to bad service, which led to lower quality, which led to lost clients.
Okay.
Why'd you lose people? Because you got too big too quick?
I burnt them out.
Yeah.
They could not take the amount of abuse. And it was just, there was no amount of overtime that was worth their time and energy at this point. It was It was obscene. And I mean, if any of them, you know who you are listening, I apologize. I didn't get it right. And I didn't get it right in advance. And so I own that. So now I've grown just significantly. I've beaten every record I could possibly ever have, and just extreme growth, extremely busy. And now it's all coming crashing down. And now we're not nearly as busy as we were. But that gave me an opportunity to hit the reset button. I still had sales, so that was good.
Yeah.
But if you're selling crap, you're not going to keep your client. No. So essentially, we were selling crap. We had new people come in to try our crap, which was enough to keep the place open, at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started changing the way in which we operated. And I did get a couple of key players in, and I made sure that we began to systematize our training. And, by the time I sold my laboratory, we could literally take anyone off the street who has any aptitude or attitude and turn them into a technician within 2 to 3 weeks.
How did you do that?
How? How?
How did you develop that?
So I documented virtually every task that we have, and they're all unlisted YouTube videos. So I got, cell phones and cameras and lights and tripods and all this stuff. And every single task that we did that would be something that we could train someone on, we recorded, we documented everything. And my hiring changed. I now hire, and I'm going to carry this with me throughout the rest of my life. I only ever hire based on attitude and aptitude. I don't care what your resume says. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Because if your attitude sucks, I don't want you in my business.
Yeah.
I tell people in an interview, right out front, if you ever use the phrase, "that's not my job," you're not going to work for me.
Interesting.
I don't care what you tell me your job is. I'm telling you what the job is. There is no way to tell me that it's not my job and get away with it in my company, because we all need to work as a team. And so because of that, I had people who were so well cross-trained. I got people, at the time of the sale, and it's continued, and that was something that even impressed Jay, blew him away. I got people who could work in the model room, who could also do CAD/CAM, who could also do removables, who could also seat crowns, and who could also stain and glaze.
Wow.
That's pretty spectacular. You don't hear that very often. Removables is always out there somewhere.
Nobody does that. Now, I'm not saying that they were the greatest teeth setters on earth, but they could do tasks. And because they could do tasks, they could help out. And so I was literally able, within a very short period of time, to take people off the street. And they are producing crowns. They're producing 3D printed dentures that are getting compliments, like really good compliments. Wow, I can't believe these things. I got a guy who was doing DoorDash, and within no time at all, he's scanning, doing all the print room stuff, designing partials, designing dentures.
Wow.
How are you able to judge a character's attitude in an interview?
It's a funny thing. You're looking for people who are excited to learn.
Yeah.
And one thing I always do is I put them out on the floor, and I would say, "Listen, you're going to sit with this person. You're going to sit with that person. We're going to kind of move you around, and you're going to get your hands on some things. Mm-hmm. And let's see what your hands do. I'm not expecting you to really be good, but I'm looking for aptitude." And, I will say that there were some times where we would hire and just the person was not, when they actually work, they're not a good fit. And we'd move them around and they're just not a good fit. And that's it, they're out. And I'm always clear about it. If it's not a good fit, listen, no harm, no foul, we're going to move on. Because I want to make sure it's a good fit for you and a good fit for the company.
And you gotta figure that out pretty fast.
We know that within the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm open and honest about it and transparent, saying this is the way it's going to work. So we set the expectation, and there's no shock if it doesn't work out.
And they probably know themselves.
People generally would leave very amicably in that situation. But in doing that, it means that with the turnover, we turn them over quickly, because you're not looking at, well, we're going to give this person 6 months to see if they come online. Now, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
You just lost.
That's a long time.
I'm losing a couple of weeks. And so by the time I've lost a couple of weeks, bang, I got somebody now. They're rocking and rolling. And so what would normally take months to finally get someone spooled up, I've got them spooled up in a few weeks. And now we're producing well. So we went from that to really dialing in the product, and we went to growing again, because the product was so good. And we got feedback from our doctors. We're very heavily reliant on feedback. And we marketed the feedback. We told the doctors the reason we want your feedback is because we track your feedback. I had KPIs based on the feedback. And those KPIs would be on a screen in the lab, up to date, real time. How are we doing? And we would tell the doctors, listen, one of the reasons that we want your feedback is because if you have cases in progress, I can stop those cases and fix them so you don't have more problems.
That's awesome.
True that.
David Lesh right there. I'll give him credit.
Yep.
David all day long.
Feedback's the new buzzword, I believe, and it works.
It works tremendously. And so, now there's this lab that is able to produce with so few people and produce so much work without even breaking a sweat.
How the hell did you pull that off?
Not bad for somebody who knew nothing about dental, right?
That's amazing. So
there's some other lessons that I've learned in the process, right? If any lab did not do their ERC, let's talk taxes for a minute, you're out of your skulls. It was something that is gone now, which is a shame, but many labs took advantage of it, which they should have.
We did it.
Yeah, and I mean, we did it. It was one of the brightest things I ever did. There's another thing out there, which I just learned recently because I have a podcast, and through my podcast, I've interviewed some amazing people. I even interviewed the founder of Reebok. Something I learned was that there is actually a program out there. It's tied to the Affordable Cares Act, and it's like a wellness program. And, one thing that labs are really struggling with, anybody for that matter, is retention. And if you have an employer-sponsored healthcare plan, the employer can take advantage of this wellness program that is essentially paid for through tax reductions. And so the employer can basically save $300 to $500 per year on every single full-time employee that they have. And every employee can save about $120 to $140 a month while getting better health care out of it. Nobody knows about this. Totally legal.
Why do you think nobody knows about it? Like, why don't they shout it from the rooftops? I don't get it. Like, making people healthy, it's a no-brainer, and saving money.
I'm going to actually address that one because these programs have been around for a while, and there's a lot of people who are doing this with fraud, and there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. Like the company that I was interviewing, I was so blown away because they'll literally put a liability insurance policy in place and name the client as a beneficiary of the policy to protect the client. So if anything goes wrong, they're good. Others don't do that, and there's a lot of scumbags out there that take advantage of people. So this is like a legit thing because now they're backing you up with an insurance policy that covers you, which to me is amazing. But I have to tell you, through my experiences in different areas, I learned that because I'm an entrepreneur and I got myself involved in taxes and stuff, and I learned that there's only about 10% of the CPAs in this country that ever really focus on learning more about the tax code every year, and the other 90% do not. So everyone goes, I trust my accountant. Well, how many times does anyone ever get a second opinion on their accountant?
Yeah,
True.
Nobody.
You do on your doctor.
Point.
You get a cancer diagnosis, you're getting a second opinion. You're getting a surgical diagnosis, you're getting a second opinion. Nobody ever gets a second opinion on their taxes. I learned that. I'm like, oh my God, that's shocking. I didn't realize it. And there's all these different ways that are out there. I mean, I'm telling you, even this wellness program blew me away. It's out there. It's legal. Nobody knows about it. Accountants don't tell you because the accountants don't know, because the accountants don't focus on it. And there's reasons why. I'm not trying to bash accountants, but they don't know what they don't know, and therefore they don't tell you. I mean, many accountants didn't want to do ERC, so they didn't tell their clients. I was one of them. I mean, I could have lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars because my accountant told me I didn't qualify. Well, it turns out I did, but I got a second opinion, and that's how I knew.
I don't even know what ERC is.
No, it was the employer retention. The employer retention. What the heck was the C? I'm blanking out on it.
Credit.
Thank you. The Employee Retention Tax Credit, ERTC.
Wow, I was right.
Totally blanked out. Yeah, thank you. Jeez, I shouldn't have been blanked out on that. And so that was part of the COVID recovery thing to help employers retain their employees and all of that. And it was a dumpster fire, and government always makes things a dumpster fire.
Yes.
And so that's why. And I mean, listen, if you guys want, I'll even give you a link at the end of the show. And whatever you posted, we'll put the link in there so people could even learn if they qualify for the wellness credit, because every business owner that's out there, every dental lab owner should at least look, because you might have a win. And this is even good for some of the bigger guys. I mean, if you're NDX and you're listening to this, you could get $300 to $500 per employee that
That's
you're paying
huge.
less than. That is so massive. And I guarantee your CFO doesn't even know about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Most people don't know. Totally legal. So, I'll put a link on there. Again, I'm going to make sure that, because I'm on your podcast, I am bringing so much value to this community because I feel like I need to give back. It's given me a lot of education, and it's been a blessing and a curse in some ways, but I'll take the blessing.
Yeah.
To be able to learn what I have and grow with what I've been able to attain.
Well, we spend a lot of time educating people on other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, that's what we do. And I mean, look, we're lab people, right? So, at the end of the day, we end up running cleanup on everything. Almost every case a dentist sends you is a dumpster fire in one way or another. And we have to problem solve. And so as an entire lab community, it's full of people who solve problems. The unfortunate thing for this community is that most of the time our heads are down looking at a bench.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know mine is.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
That's no joke. And when heads go down, you can't see what's right in front of your face because you're not looking at what you need to see. There's lots of things that lab owners can do that will increase the value of their business, and they don't do it because their head is down. Guys like David, even guys like myself, I mean, I've started consulting as well. There are resources to make things better, to increase your profits. One thing that I learned was at one point was it doesn't matter how much you increase in sales. If you lose 2 cents on every dollar, do you really want to increase your sales 10 times?
No. And most people don't know that they're losing 2 cents on every dollar.
Most lab owners do not have a clue about where they're at with their actual profit. I mean, they may look at their gross profit and go, well, yeah, I feel, big mistake, I feel like I'm making money. Or I look at my P&L, and if their P&L was anything like ours was originally, it was a bowl of spaghetti. And if you're looking at that bowl of spaghetti and you think it's good, but a professional can look at that bowl of spaghetti and tell you it's spaghetti and have to unravel it. And by the end of it, they unravel it and you go, wow, congratulations. You're getting like 3% profit. All that for 3%, for 3 cents on every dollar. Wow. Go me. And it's so common. And I just wish that from this community who struggles to make a dollar, I mean, really, we work hard.
We do.
To make a dollar. We put blood, sweat, and tears, energy into owning our labs and making those labs good labs that can keep clients in a very competitive environment where there's generally a race to the bottom, which I hate. And we don't even know what we're doing to ourselves. And it can be corrected. Like, there's one lab out in Oklahoma. Oh my gosh, this lab owner was in tears. My heart went out to her. And, she was in dire straits and she just bought it. She was all excited a few months before. She just bought this lab and she was all excited and she's going to grow. And I mean, it didn't go well. And it began crumbling severely. I was able to help her out. And now she's finally out the other end and, she's profitable and surviving and beginning to thrive and all of that. How many others are out there that are still struggling and they don't know it, or they just feel the pain and the stress and the frustration and they don't know what to do about it. And so they just keep doing what they do with the hopes that it's going to get better. And there's plenty of answers out there. And the answer is never, by the way, trying a new zirconia.
That'll make it a little crazier.
Sorry, manufacturers. The answer is not trying a new zirconia or the latest and greatest in the printer or try this resin over that resin or, it is understanding what you can do with the materials, finding the right materials for your process and really leaning out the amount of steps that it takes and forgoing some things. Like, one thing I did was I got rid of every bit of casting equipment in my laboratory. I was like, you know what? I'm going to outsource all the PFMs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cast any more metal because I'm going to go straight full on digital because I know that I can make money doing that where I can't really, if I break up my manufacturing process and ruin an assembly line with PFMs, all I'm doing is shooting myself in the foot. I'm not getting anywhere and it's not profitable.
Yeah. Also, a lot of it seems to be finding what you do different.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That is the number one question you have to start with. What can make you different than your competitors? For me, it was speed.
And it's not always an easy answer either because
it's a hard question.
So many labs, we all have the same mills. We're using the same zirconia, the same design software, the same CAM software. It's hard.
For us, it was, we marketed differently. We collected data and ran off of KPIs. Most labs
We all don't have babies we can put on postcards, dude.
No, but you can collect data.
Yeah.
You can still have the same crown. You can mill out a B&D Origin Beyond Plus A2 just like I could. But if mine fits better because I collect the data to make sure that we know exactly where we're at and can improve on it to make absolutely sure that we are, our seating times, for example, we tracked our seating times based on the feedback that we got from our doctors. We never, ever exceeded any more than 3 minutes of grinding to get a crown seated.
That's amazing.
That's pretty damn fast.
Yeah.
Of course, 10 to 12 is good.
Right. We were under 4 minutes, somewhere in the 3 range. Really, last few months has been, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, basically. Wow. Most of our feedback cards came back, no adjustment, no adjustment, no adjustment, no adjustment. Feedback time, seating time, 0, 0, 0, 0. And that comes from tracking your KPIs. But if you don't know what you're doing, how do you know how your product is actually going on the market? And so instead of simply just saying, here's my kids, that was only one campaign. Yeah. My kids are grown. Nobody wants to look at them anymore. They're adorable. They're 8, but that doesn't mean people want to look at them.
Sure.
But, we did shift over to KPI. And so that meant that, my salesperson can walk into an office and say, tell me about your lab. And usually there's some sort of feedback. Oh, I love my lab. I'm sure you do. Everyone loves their lab. You just want to get rid of us.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, how long does it take to seat a crown? Well, we have, we block out an hour, 45 minutes. Ooh, wow.
Opportunity. Bingo.
Why so long? Well, that's the way it is. Well, does your lab tell you, how long it takes to seat a crown? Well, no. Wow, they don't know. I guess not.
How do you get the doctors to give you that feedback? We have those little quality control cards on the how do you get them to
well, when you sell based on the feedback cards, where you can literally tell the office, here's a screenshot of our performance right now. Here's our KPIs and our numbers based on shade and fit and all these other things that we track. They're motivated to get that. But, unless you do that, or unless you do something different. Look, even people that have been through my lab as potential buyers of my lab, because there was more.
Yeah.
They'd even be like, my God, we can never get this kind of feedback. And again,
I know it's tough.
Credit to David Lesh. If there's labs out there that want this level, they need to pick up the phone and call David Lesh. He has ways of doing things that are way smarter than what most labs do. Very, very bright guy. Very bright. And it turned everything around for me. And where I had the best benefit was recognizing how to scale and set my lab up for scalability. That wasn't so much David, that was all me. But I wouldn't be here today had it not been for David, who really was able to gin up the sales, change the way in which we sold, club me over the head about the importance of data, because most labs don't care about data. I certainly didn't. I didn't recognize it. You could say you do. We all say we do, but what do you back it up with?
Yeah, that's interesting.
After all of that, you said that you sold your lab. Like, you're so digging on labs. You love labs. You've got all this great energy, all this great training. Now you're consulting. Why did you sell?
Whoever said I liked labs?
Well, you kind of sound like you do now.
Words in my mouth? Come on. I have a passion for business, and I have a passion for problem solving. And I've operated in multiple sectors, for most of my life. And I got into labs because I've been in aviation. I'm still in aviation. I started in aviation.
Did you say you got into labs because of aviation?
Yes.
Yeah, you never mentioned that.
Yeah, what the hell?
So what happens is, right, if your clients are airlines, what happens is on a Friday morning, because it's always Friday mornings, you're sitting there, you're on the can, you're looking at your phone, because this is what we all do. You know, we look at our phone when we sit on the can.
Yeah.
And on a Friday morning, you go, oh, wow, there's another client of mine. Another airline went bankrupt. And there's another 60,000, 100,000, whatever the number is, I'm not going to get. And I know darn well that about a year and a half from now, I'm going to get sued by their creditors.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. Damn, that's a pretty intense statement. Okay, keep going.
Because that's how it works.
You're sitting on the can.
Exactly. It's all coming out. And so, you know, when you've done that enough times, you go, I think I want to have eggs in different baskets. And I decided to go into dental because it was a whim and it was a very difficult lesson. And I mean, would I own another dental lab? No. It's a very hard business. But the passion that you hear is excitement about the things that I've learned and a passion for sharing it and helping people, and the fact that I just love business. I mean, guys, there's labs that I've been in. I mean, there was at one point I created a dental distributor. I was going to sell equipment and machines. I was going to sell zirconia, and I did. I couldn't keep up with it, and so I had to kind of shut that down because I was all for it. But I mean, I've been into different labs. There are such amazing businessmen and labs in this industry. I mean, you know, oh my God, like Brad Sleminski up there in Wisconsin. Holy crap. This guy, straight shooter, runs an amazing facility. Oh my gosh. You know, Burbank, these guys are incredible over there. A lot
of great labs in this.
Some phenomenal labs. But the problem is that's a small handful. There's a lot of labs that struggle.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And these guys are constantly on the verge of either being in trouble, slightly out of trouble, or totally in trouble.
And a lot of times they don't even know it because they're just working so hard.
They feel the burn and they don't know what to do about it. And it creates problems in their home life. It hurts their marriages. It hurts their relationships with their children. And it doesn't have to be that way. They have to know how to ask for help.
Yeah.
And they have to know that when you ask for help, there's going to be a cost. But that cost is going to pay for itself. And then some, because it's going to put them in a position where they could either sell if they want, or they can grow. And they can't do that if they're sitting and doing exactly what they always do with the struggle. And I guarantee you, there are so many labs out there that are struggling. I mean, even some of the larger labs that are out there, medium-sized labs where the owner is just killing himself trying to get ahead. And he just knows that if he could just get more crowns, or if he could just get more dentures, or if he changes this material, then it's all going to get better, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
So is that what you're doing now? Are you out there helping these people?
When the phone rings, I help. And I do. And I mean, that's not just the only thing. I mean, I'm still in aviation. I just spent 3 weeks in Singapore. It was absolutely fantastic. That's one of the reasons that's why I actually had to delay, talking with you guys, because I ended up on a trip out to Singapore. It's wonderful. I love Singapore. And I also started different companies within aviation. And right now I'm also looking at possibly doing private equity roll-ups in like the transportation field and trucking. I mean,
back to trucks with crap.
I mean, exactly, because there's a need.
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, I'm out there and I'm just helping people. I have a podcast. My podcast also focuses very much on business and, helping people learn things that they may not necessarily see or realize is available. The example being the tax thing. If any of the labs that are listening don't click the link that I'm going to give you guys, you guys are out of your freaking skulls. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
It is a no-brainer, actually.
And quite frankly, if you're an employee of a lab and you basically want to get, $120, $140, a month, it's not necessarily a pay raise, but it sort of is, because it's more money towards you for things that you could spend it on versus just giving. Why wouldn't you say, hey, boss, here's a link. Check it out, man. You might be for you.
If I was an employee and I knew my owner, I'd be like, look, actually, I will. I think we have that, though. I think we do at my lab. But yeah, it's definitely interesting that people don't utilize those things. It's such a money saver. It's like ridiculous.
I mean, one thing from this particular one that I was like, wow, that's amazing. I was interviewing the founder, and they have an app that they give you. And if the settings in the app are on for, I guess, location or whatever, there's an example that he talks about one employee for a company. The company's got the plan, so this employee has the app, and the employee was having some issues and went to the emergency room. And the app recognized where he was, and a doctor contacted him via the app and helped him from sitting there in the waiting room in the emergency room.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Talk about a level of service and a level of illness. You don't get that elsewhere. And so to me, it blows my mind that nobody knows about these things.
Damn.
Right?
Well, they might now if they listen to the podcast.
They should. And by the way, everyone, voices from the bench, no less than 5 stars. No less than 5 stars is allowed. Much like mine, which is Brainsky Unleashed. You should be listening. You're going to get a lot of insight from it. Brainsky Unleashed.
What is that? Give it up.
So it's my podcast. And so my podcast, like I said, is it's mostly business based. Sometimes I'll do things that are outside of it. I mean, I have a social media influencer / makeup company. She started her own makeup line. I met her while, believe it or not, I was involved in filming a commercial for Roger Dubuis watches out in California a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And
what do you not do, man?
You have a great life, man. I would travel along.
So blessed, you have no idea. And you want to, here we go, everyone. This is the greatest life lesson. It's so simple. When an opportunity presents itself, say yes. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Say yes first, and then you look at it and go, it's not for me, and walk away. Don't say no. Anytime you say no, you could be missing out on something amazing. Just say yes and look at it. So many people have their heads down. Oh, I don't have time for that. Might as well look. You don't know.
Well, I've checked out your podcast, man, and while it's not all dental, it's got some really interesting topics. And it's hilarious, too, by the way. You're a great host.
I don't want to brag, but people know me. I'm kind of a big deal.
They know Elvis, too, so.
Yeah, Elvis he's a big deal. I mean, my God. You can't talk to anyone in dental who doesn't know Elvis and voices. And you too, Barb, of course. I mean, I don't want to leave you out.
Yeah.
Goodness. I didn't go to lab day this year because I basically sold my lab. I might go next year. I miss that.
You should go next year.
The camaraderie of lab day because I know so many people. I was like, oh, man, if I was there, I would have sat at your table and we could have really recorded some stuff,
How long ago did you sell your lab?
Let's see. It was sold 29th of February, which, by the way, I can celebrate every 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, leap day, leap year.
So basically, when we connected on LinkedIn, you were still a lab owner.
I was still a lab owner, yeah.
Wow. So do you miss it yet?
I was there today to pick up, some mail and stuff that was, anytime you shut down a business, it's more than just, it's not flipping a switch. And I have to tell you, I really miss the people. I love walking in there. I love seeing the technology that's going in there. I love seeing how they're taking what we did and just continue to just throw gas on that flame. It's exciting to see. It's funny. Right before we sold, I was having a meeting in my office with my department managers. And they, one of them said to me, they were like, geez, it seems like you're really excited about selling, but it's almost like you want to stay. And I said, I sort of feel like I do. I mean, I'm going to miss this.
Yeah.
And then my admin person walked in, they knocked on the door, walked in and said, hey, this doctor's on the phone and she's calling and she's really upset because she doesn't think it's fair that our warranty doesn't cover a patient swallowing their crown. And the manager asked me, goes, you still like want to stick around? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. It's a great business without doctors. I'm just saying.
Yeah. The old famous, is your warranty cover it since the whole root broke off, that kind of thing.
Why is that my problem? Why are you calling me about this?
They make so much money and they're such penny pinchers.
And it was the conversation was literally, well, she says she's going to never work with us again unless we cover the crown. And I'm like, bye.
Yep. See ya. Not my lab.
Your business.
I say that all the time. Not my lab.
Yeah. Your business is not that important to me. When you're like that, I don't need you.
100%. So when you sold, how many people did you build up to?
Well, that's it. I built up and then I melted down.
Then you melted down.
I built up, then I melted down, then I built up a little bit more. But I was so efficient with what I had. At one point, we had 18 people. And then it was just a nuclear meltdown. And I sold the lab with, I think, 6 or 7 technicians.
Wow.
And we were doing better than we did with 18.
Oh, I bet you were. Great job on that, by the way. Smart.
It's totally doable.
Yeah.
Just got to focus.
Thomas, Brainsky, right? Brainsky.
Yeah.
Thomas Brainski. Thank you so much. This is some good stuff, man. I had no idea. Definitely, I encourage people to check out the podcast. It's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
No less than 5 stars.
No less than 5 stars.
That'll be our new tagline.
I always tell people, rate us as long as you like us.
Exactly. Oh, no, you need to rate me and like me. It's like that. Don't listen if you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Thomas, thank you so much, sir. And
Thank you.
Yeah, come to the next lab day. Let's meet up. This is good.
Hey, listen, guys, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to being a regular. So I'll see you next week.
All right. Yeah. Awesome, sir. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks.
A huge thanks, Thomas, for coming on our podcast and talking about your amazing journey. I think I was at the AACD meeting that weekend and I was recording in the hotel room. But even though you're not in the industry anymore, it sounds like you will always have a soft spot for dental labs and dental techs. Thank you for sharing many insights into your failures and your successes and what you learned along the way. I think everybody can learn something from what you've been through, no doubt. I did. I know Elvis did.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are interested in learning more about the annual tax savings tied to employee benefits, check out the link on this episode's show notes. And if you want to hear more from Thomas, check out his own podcast called Brainsky Unleashed, found everywhere that you will find podcasts. But listen to us first.
Of course, always. Even over your own family.
Even over M&M.
All right, everybody. That's all we got from you. If you're going to be at FDLA, we'll see you. If not, we'll still talk to you next week.
You know it.
Have a good one.
Have a great. Bye.
Jaime.
The views and opinions expressed on the Voices from the Bench podcast are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the host or Voices from the Bench, LLC.